네, 안녕하십니까. 서울 포럼 2023을 찾아주신 모든
Evening. I would like to welcome all of you to Seoul Forum 2023. It is a great pleasure to also be part of this event. Let me introduce myself. I am Kim Bo-ram, announcer from Seoul Economic TV and your MC for this event. Thank you very much. So it is a great honor to be part of this annual forum, inviting scholars, politicians, entrepreneurs, academic experts from home and abroad in pursuit of new growth strategies for a better world and further development of Korea. So it is enjoying its 14th anniversary. So the world as a whole, including Korea, is facing challenges to respond to low birth rates and aging trend in the society, as well as securing future growth engines in the midst of food and climate crisis that unfortunately has already become part of our reality. In response, Seoul Economic Daily brings your attention to biotechnology, which holds the key to the national security and future of mankind, to set the theme of the Seoul Forum 2023 as the era of advanced biotechnology, the core of healthcare, economy, and security. This forum, held for 2 days starting from today to tomorrow, will discuss the ecosystem of K-Bio with an emphasis on advanced biotechnology, inviting world-renowned scholars and experts to seek new growth engines for Korea. We hope that it will be an invaluable opportunity to learn about global trends in the biohealthcare industry and find solutions to open ways to become first movers in the advanced biofield. Thus, I ask for your active and continued participation. Without further ado, may I ask Mr. Son Dong-young, CEO of Seoul Economic Daily, to take the podium to commence the forum with your remarks of welcome. Let's welcome him with a big round of applause.
Good evening. I'm Song Dong-young, CEO of the Seoul Economic Daily, and it is my great pleasure to welcome you to Seoul Forum 2023, especially during this beautiful season. It's very nice to meet you. And first of all, I would like to express my sincere gratitude to President Yoon Suk-yeol for sending a congratulatory message for the forum, despite being busy with promoting innovations in Korea. Mr. Kim Jin-pyo, Speaker of the National Assembly, was gracious enough to send a video message to Seoul Forum 2023. Thank you very much. I'd also like to express my gratitude to Kim Ki-yeon, Chairperson of the People's Power Party, Mr. Park Kwang-won, Floor Leader of the Democratic Party of Korea, and other members of the political circles. And also, I'd like to mention Mr. Chu Kyung-ho, Deputy Prime Minister for Economy and Minister of Strategy and Finance, and Mr. Cho Gu-hyung, Minister of Health and Welfare, and Mr. Lee Gong-hyung, President of Korea Advanced Institute of Science and Technology, and other members of the academic, and Mr. Kim Byung-jun, Acting President of the Federation of Korean Industry, and other members of the business circles. Thank you. We also have distinguished guests from abroad who are here to deliver their keynote address. Mr. Subra Suresh, Director of the HP Board of Directors, and Mr. Jeffrey Glenn, Professor at Stanford University. Welcome to Korea. I'd also like to thank all of our distinguished guests for joining us today. Distinguished guests, the Republic of Korea is going through a turbulent time. The confrontation between U.S. and China and the aftermath of the war in Ukraine have drastically changed the landscape and economic environment of the Korean Peninsula. And above all, the COVID-19 pandemic has fundamentally changed everything from the way we live as humans to the global supply chain and political landscape. Korea needs to quickly adapt to this new environment and achieve new growth, but it is not easy to find new breakthroughs due to various structural problems. Under these circumstances, Seoul Economic Daily believes that biotechnology should be a key new growth engine for Korea, and hence bioindustry and technology are the topics of this year's forum. If we combine existing biotechnologies with our IT prowess and actively pioneer new paths in the field of advanced biotechnology, I'm convinced that Korea will be a leader in this field in the not-too-distant future. President Yoon Suk-yeol has declared that biohealthcare will be a key national strategic industry. And during his visit to the U.S. in April, he met with local scholars and said that the combination of bio and digital technologies will change the paradigm of life. Seoul Economic Daily shares the same view. We'd like to propose through this forum that we work together to make Korea a world leader in the field of advanced biotechnology. We expect Seoul Forum 2023 to provide inspirations and ideas for K-Bio to heighten its global status going forward. Once again, I'd like to express my deepest gratitude to all distinguished guests for attending the opening ceremony of Seoul Forum 2023. Thank you.
네, 감사합니다.
Thank you very much, President. Let's give a big round of applause to Mr. Son Dong-young, CEO of Seoul Economic Daily. Thank you very much.
감사합니다. 네, 이어서
Next, we will enjoy a beautiful video performance manifesting the theme of Seoul Forum 2023 and also congratulatory messages from international presenters and panelists sent over in advance. I wonder what kind of messages will be unboxed. Please enjoy.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
서울 포럼 2023 보건의료 경제안보의 핵심 첨단 바이오 시대를
Seoul Forum
열자.
2023, the era of advanced biotechnology, the core of biohealthcare economy and security.
지속 가능한 발전을 위해
For sustainable
서울
growth,
포럼이 제시하는
Seoul Forum 2023 is proposing a new growth engine. Through Seoul Forum 2023, so the humanity as a whole had shared a dream for prolonging life, healthcare, economy, national security is among the important sectors transforming Korea and the world to create a healthier society through green bio, red bio, white bio as well.
글로벌 패권 전쟁을 좌우할 국가
The
정책
global stage would be decided by advanced biotechnology. So global biotechnology is led by the US and it is connected to also Canada. Israel is also the strong nation in IT and bioconversions. France is strong in novel drug development. Swiss has a strong bio industry. India is also known for its R&D expertise. Singapore is a biohealth and hub of Asia. China is extending great support. Japan is at the crossroads of bio-innovation.
글로벌 첨단 바이오 강국을 향한
And in order to become the strong leader in global bio industry, adventure, experiment, fusion
거대한 흐름에
is coming together. And at the very center is Korea.
또 한 번 찾아온 변화의 물결
Another wave of change is coming. To be prepared in the midst of the digital converged era. IT powerhouse Korea is coming and preparing to become the leader in biohealth as well.
사람을 향해
For people, to people, for technology, and for the future.
아직 가보지 못한 길을 창의적으로
We are chartering uncharted territory.
그 새로운 내일이
And the new future
바로 지금
is starting
이곳에서 시작됩니다.
now and here.
Unique convergence of the digital, the biological, and the physical worlds provides new opportunities to address human health and wellness, not just at the individual level, but also at the level of the society.
when COVID came, we said, well, we need to pivot, and we could apply all those approaches and technologies to COVID, and they all are very applicable, and they all have shown actually very promising results. So we're quite excited about that.
More than 84% of NIH funding is awarded for extramural research, largely through competitive grants to more than 300,000 researchers.
React Neuro is a digital health platform leveraging virtual reality to democratize access to the world's best brain health at home.
Recently, I visited Korea several times, and I see that academia, the universities here, are not always well connected with the industry in the biotech sector.
Basis for an innovative eco-biosystem is a good education system, starting from kindergarten, that will encourage curiosity and independent thinking.
As a result, the field of advanced biotechnology is making a quantum leap forward as we speak.
This is an incredibly important opportunity when we think about access to care as a global problem, especially in rural areas where specialist care is at a minimum.
Korea, like Israel, has a highly educated and skilled workforce, which is critical for the high-tech and the biotech industry.
Ultracyte is a digital health pioneer working to increase access to cardiac care through the power of artificial intelligence.
Breakthroughs in green-white biotechnology can play a critical role in tackling the climate crisis.
네, 서울
Thank you very much for the wonderful video performance. The wonderful video performance is representing the theme of this forum, the era of advanced biotechnology, the core of healthcare, economy, and security. With such an artistic touch and the passionate messages on advanced biotechnology from international speakers who are also present with us today. Thank you very much. So we are kickstarting the opening ceremony of Seoul Forum 2023, and many people sent over their congratulatory messages, starting from President Yoon Suk-yeol of the Republic of Korea, who kindly sent over a message wishing for the success of this forum, which will be read for by Ms. Kim Eun-ae, the Chief of the Public Relations at the Office of the Presidential Secretary. Let's welcome her with a big round of applause.
Congratulations on the Seoul Forum 2023, the 14th forum of its kind. Mr. Son Dong-young, President of the Seoul Economic Daily, and other members of the paper, as well as the world's leading scholars and experts who will explore the growth engines in the biotechnology industry together, thank you very much. The theme of this year's Seoul Forum is the era of advanced biotechnology, the core of healthcare, economy, and security. The global biohealth market is valued at about 260 trillion Korean won. 2,600 trillion Korean won, and it's a huge industry, second only to the semiconductor industry. It contributes significantly to improving human health and expanding freedom. Countries around the world, like the US, European countries, and Israel, are competing fiercely for biotechnology and market dominance. We, too, are proactively promoting biotechnology industry, which has unlimited possibilities and potentials. In October last year, we announced 12 national strategic technologies, including advanced biotechnology, and disclosed plans to foster them. During my last state visit to the United States, I visited the Boston Biotechnology Cluster and also held a conversation with digital biotechnology scholars at MIT. I was inspired upon hearing the process of forming the world's best biotechnology cluster and the convergence of bio, digital, and engineering. In Korea, we will also strive to create a complete biotechnology cluster where universities, hospitals, and companies will come together to provide services from technology development to management, finance, legal consulting, and investment, all at a single place. We will also work closely with the world's top bio-related universities, research institutes, and clusters to help them create notable outcomes in the global market. Our wealth of medical data and our digital capabilities and AI technology can be combined with digital biotechnology to enable us to generate innovation and create quality jobs. We will spare no efforts to support the chain reaction of advanced biotechnologies leading to advanced bio industries and advanced bio industries leading to biotechnology economy. I hope that today's forum will lead to various discussions and solutions for Korea to become a global advanced biotechnology powerhouse. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, President Yoon Sung-yeol, for your congratulatory message. Let's give a big round of applause. And also thank you, Ms. Kim Eun-hye, Chief of Public Relations at the Office of the President of the Republic of Korea, for delivering this wonderful message. Thank you very much. The next congratulatory message will come from Kim Jin-pyo, the chairperson of the National Assembly. He wasn't able to join us in person, but sent over a congratulatory video. It is a great pleasure to meet you. My name is Kim Jin-pyo, Speaker of the National Assembly. Congratulations on the 63rd anniversary of the Seoul Economic Daily and the opening of Seoul Forum 2023. Thank you, Mr. Son Dong-young, CEO of Seoul Economic Daily, and all the helping hands for organizing this event. The advanced bio era has already begun. The bio industry is emerging as a key industry for not only healthcare, but also for economic security. The world is now in a war using biotech instead of gunfire. The bio industry is going beyond boundaries. Beyond the traditional healthcare field, the industry is more and more converging with ICT and also holds a promise to solve environmental problems such as climate crisis under white bio. And green bio industry is emerging as an alternative to the food crisis in cooperation of agricultural technology. We need to win the global advanced biotechnology competition so that we can secure our competitiveness for the future and flourish for the next 50 and 100 years to come. The licensing process needs to be improved across the board so that hard-earned research and technologies can be brought to market in a timely manner without any delay. For this, the government, Congress, and private sector must work together as a team. Today is an opportunity to gather wisdom from renowned scholars from home and abroad. I hope that all of you will gather your wisdom so that Korea can become an undisputed winner in the international bio competition. The National Assembly will also spare no effort. Once again, congratulate you on the opening of Seoul Forum 2023, and I wish you all success and good health. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. So the chairperson talked about the importance of the biohealth industry and also committed the efforts from the National Assembly. So thank you very much, Chairperson Kim Jin-pyo, for sending over a congratulatory message. Our next congratulatory remarks will be said by Mr. Kim Gi-hyun, chairperson of the People's Power Party, who joined us despite his very busy schedule. Let's welcome him with a big round of applause. It's a great pleasure to meet you. My name is Kim Gi-hyun, and I'm the chairperson of the People's Power Party. So if we look at the history of Korea, it has been very compact. It has been a receiving end of donation, but transformed itself into a donor country and become the 10th biggest economic power in the world. And I think this is very unprecedented in the international society. So there are many difficulties in terms of domestic demand and exports. We are also faced with many demographic changes, including the aging society trend. However, we have achieved a great deal, and based on this success, I am very confident that we would be able to leap forward. So we need to take away regulations so that the labor market could be more flexible and elastic. And by doing so, we would be able to come out of the economic slowdown to jump forward and gain another momentum. So at this point of time, I believe it is very timely that Seoul Economic Daily is opening the Seoul Forum 2023 under the theme of the Era of Advanced Biotechnology, the core of healthcare, economy, and security. It could not be any more timely. So congratulations on the opening of the forum. I would like to thank CEO of Seoul Economic Daily, Mr. Son Dong-young, for organizing this meaningful event, and all the government officials and also experts from around the world for joining us in this meaningful event. So the export dependency of Korea is 70%, which is very high in the international arena. So under the circumstances, we need to continue to identify growth engines and also sustain semiconductors and automobile, secondary batteries, and display sectors as well. So these have been strategic areas. However, on top of these strategic areas, advanced biotechnology should also come into the page. In addition, the nuclear power has been restored, and also the national defense industry will be another area of focus for the country. So this forum is focusing on biohealth, and biohealth market alone is more than 2,600 trillion won. So it not only has economic values, but has demographic values in the midst of the aging society. So as have been mentioned during the president's congratulatory message, the current administration is also focusing on biohealth industry so that it could be a second semiconductor industry in Korea. And also in the case of President Joe Biden, the biohealth strengthening efforts have been made within the administration. So in terms of biohealth, we are a fast follower rather than being a first mover. However, based on our commitment, our determination, and our track record and experience, I'm confident that we will not only be able to become a fast follower, we would be able to become a fast mover. Healthcare and energy and security have many challenges that we share all together. So I hope we would be able to tap into the convergence of advanced biotechnology. We would be able to lead the industry as a whole. And in order to do so, the regulatory foundation should be secured. So the tax system will also have to be improved, among other red tape and regulatory affairs. So a lot is on the plate of the National Assembly. In order to reinvigorate the bio-industry ecosystem, many creative ideas and aggressive approaches are necessary. So we are making efforts for our citizens, and I would like to thank also the efforts coming from the private sector, and we will make sure to support this journey. Thank you very much for your attention. Thank you very much. In order for Korea to become an advanced biotechnology powerhouse, we need to gather further efforts and create momentum. Thank you very much, Mr. Kim Gi-hyun, Chairperson of the People's Power Party, for your remarks. Next, we will move on to Mr. Park Kwang-won, the floor leader of the Democratic Party of Korea, who will give his remarks. Let's welcome him with a big round of applause.
As introduced, my name is Park Kwang-won. So Seoul Forum is basically an outcome of the Seoul Economic Daily. And back in the days when newspapers were thriving, Seoul Economic Daily actually created an economic newspaper so as to really drive the Korean economy. And I'm sure that members of the paper probably feels very proud of that. And everyone is envious of the achievements that you have accomplished. So basically, the Seoul Economic Daily has been together with the Korean history. It has been 63 years since the paper was established, and also this is the 14th Seoul Forum, and so I applaud you in all your endeavors. Now, we have world-renowned scholars and business leaders and politicians, economic experts joining us for the Seoul Forum 2023. Thank you very much. Every single year, Seoul Forum deals with the most important issues and trends in Korea and around the world, and it makes necessary discussions, and it has become one of the most prominent forums here in Korea. In particular, with worsening low birth rate and aging population, we are holding this Seoul Forum 2023 under the topic of the era of advanced biotechnology, the core of healthcare, economy, and security, so as to secure a new growth driver for Korea's economy. When it comes to biosimilar and so on, we are on a world class. However, the size of biotechnology industry when compared to that of advanced countries is still very small. As of 2022, the number one biomedical company, Pfizer, was actually 123 trillion Korean won. But, our Korean pharmaceutical companies actually have a revenue of 3 trillion won, so we still have a long way to go. The government and the National Assembly recently created strategies to create new biological technology markets and are trying to expand tax benefits and other benefits to related companies so as to further foster this industry. For Korea to become a mecca of biotechnology, I'm confident that Seoul Forum 2023 will exert its utmost efforts. And we actually have Mr. Subra Suresh, who used to be the president of the Nanyang Technology University, as well as Carnegie Mellon University, as well as renowned scholars from all over the world. Thank you so much for coming. And together with Chairperson of the People's Power Party, Mr. Kim Gi-hyun, our party will spare no efforts for the advancement of biotechnology industry here in Korea. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. This Seoul Forum will become an opportunity for Korea to reposition itself as the mecca of biohealth industry. So thank you very much, floor leader of the Democratic Party of Korea, Mr. Park Kwang-won, once again for your remarks. Okay, last but not least, Mr. Chu Kyung-ho, Deputy Prime Minister for Economic Affairs and Minister of Strategy of Finance, will bless us with this message. Deputy Prime Minister, over to you. Good evening. It is a great pleasure to meet you. I am Chu Kyung-ho, Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Strategy and Finance. So it is my pleasure to welcome you to the 14th Seoul Forum 2023. Congratulations. I would like to thank Mr. Son Dong-young, CEO of the Seoul Economic Daily, and all helping hands that organized such a meaningful event. I would also like to thank many VIPs, Mr. Kim Gi-hyun, chairperson of the People's Power Party, and also Mr. Park Kwang-won, floor leader of the Democratic Party of Korea, and all distinguished guests for blessing us with your presence. Up to this point, Seoul Forum 2023 has become a true place of dialogue discussing key domestic international trends in various fields such as science, technology, energy, and education, establishing itself as a representative public venue of discussion and education. The theme of this year's forum, the Era of Advanced Biotechnology, the core of healthcare, economy, and security, is very meaningful in setting the direction of the bio industry going forward. At present, we are facing various risks such as economic, social, and environmental issues occurring simultaneously. While the internal and external economic slowdown continues, growth potential is declining following demographic changes. Even after COVID-19, disease threats from new infectious disease such as monkey, Duchang, and Mpox continues, and the environmental crisis warned by the World Economic Forum is visualizing in food shortages and natural disasters. The bio industry is becoming increasingly important as a solution to this complex crisis. It is emerging as a new growth engine by creating new technology and new industries such as digital bio, and it is also converging with fields such as healthcare, agri-food, energy, and chemistry, attracting attention as a solution to disease threats and environmental crises. In particular, after experiencing insecurity in securing medical supply during COVID-19, we realized the security value of the bio industry as well. As a result, major countries such as the US and Japan are actively promoting the bio industry as national strategic level. So in response to the advent of the bioeconomy era, the government will spare no support in order to create the foundation for growth for digital bio industry, secure healthcare and eco-friendly core technologies, so that bio-innovation ecosystem where excellent R&D achievements are selected for commercialization, which would be achieved. First, we will enact regulations to allow digital bio companies to utilize quality healthcare data. We will also strengthen the digital bio infrastructure by fostering talented people and supporting the utilization of advanced equipment as well. In addition, we will support research and development of future medical core technologies, food tech and biomaterials and fuels, and commercialization of these technologies. Finally, we will develop and commercialize game-changer technologies such as mRNA, learning from the example from the Boston cluster in the US. The bio industry is a dynamic innovation ecosystem where technology, talent, knowledge, and capital are all closely linked. Therefore, reducing location restrictions and supporting greater collaboration between industry, academia, research, and hospitals would be required to create a world-class bio cluster in Korea. If the Korean bio industry is to lead the global bio economy, a virtuous cycle must be established where revolutionary technology development and investment are fairly rewarded. In addition to expanding infrastructure, increasing quantitative support would be necessary, and the way of working and investment practices should also be enhanced and supported by industry, academia, hospitals, government, and local governments all together. And we also heard from the chairperson of the People's Power Party and also the floor leader of the Democratic Party of Korea. So tax benefits to the biohealth industry would be granted to further grow the industry. And the government will take lead and take initiative. So I hope you would be able to take my word for this. Thank you very much. So I hope this forum will serve as an opportunity to come up with creative ideas and insights going forward. Once again, I would like to send my congratulations to the Seoul Forum 2023. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mr. Chu Kyung-woo, Deputy Prime Minister of Economic Affairs and Minister of Strategy and Finance. Let's give a big round of applause to Mr. Chu. I also acknowledge prominent experts from home and abroad actively working in industries, academia, and research institutes who have joined us today and congratulate the opening of Seoul Forum 2023, but I hope you understand that we will not be able to call out all of your names. However, I would like to congratulate and thank everyone by giving each other a big round of applause. Thank you very much for your participation. Next, moving on to the Vision Declaration ceremony to set out the new growth solutions for the Korean economy and sustainable development plans for the global economy. So, many distinguished guests have came out to participate in this meaningful event that I will kindly like to call out and invite onto the stage without honorifics and titles. Turn to your seats. So once the stage is organized, we will proceed with the next speech. Thank you very much for your participation. So please return to your seats and take a seat. So it was an opportunity to gather our hearts together and leave commemorative photos. So please return back to your seat. Once everyone is seated, we will proceed with the next congratulatory message. So I would like to ask for your patience. We will proceed with the next session momentarily. We also have Mr. Kim Byung-jun from the Economic Association who will give us his congratulatory remarks. Please welcome him with a big round of applause.
As introduced, my name is Kim Byung-jun. So we've just heard excellent remarks through other congratulatory messages. So I'm not sure if I have anything else left to say, but nevertheless, I will share my opinions. First of all, I'd like to congratulate Mr. Song Dong-yeong, CEO of the Seoul Economic Daily, as well as the members of the Seoul Economic Daily and all the journalists. This is indeed a very significant forum. So once again, thank you very much for organizing this event. We have so many distinguished guests joining us, especially excellent scholars joining us from home and abroad, and so many experts are here to give their insights on making sure that we foster our biotechnology industry and make a new leap in terms of our economy. So this bio industry, just as with other industries, has many challenges and difficulties. First of all, the return on investment could take a very long time, and there's also ethics issues that must be resolved. So it takes time. And it can also raise various social conflicts. So we just heard, people from the political circles giving their congratulatory remarks. But whether it be the political circle or the civil society, I believe that we have to pull our wisdom together so as to overcome those ethics-related controversies. And we don't have enough capital for this industry as of today. And so, the capital market, it's very difficult to actually support an industry that takes a long time to get a return on investment. But I do believe that we need to make innovations in this industry. We did lay out 7 tasks faced by Korea today, and I hope that we will be able to tackle those tasks so that Korea can become a biomedicine and biotechnology powerhouse. I believe we can do this. And once again, congratulations for holding this forum, and that ends my congratulatory speech. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kim Byung-jun, Acting Director of the Federation of the Korean Industries. So he had spoken of a message of hope that we can also do this. So I think this is a good spirit for the opening ceremony. So including the US and many European nations, investment towards bioindustry is being given to a great extent. So the bioindustry will become more promising under the current predictions. So Korea as well is trying to make sure that it will become a first mover in the trend, and that is why today's forum has been put together, inviting many scholars from around the world so that Korea would be able to further identify growth engines in the era of biohealth, which makes this forum all the more meaningful. So I would like to ask for your continued interest and support. So next, Minister Cho Kyu-hong of Health and Welfare will give us a public briefing. Minister, onto the stage, please, and let's welcome him with a big round of applause.
Good evening. I'm Cho Kyu-hong, Minister of Health and Welfare. It's a pleasure to meet you. First of all, I'd like to congratulate the opening of Seoul Forum 2023. And it's my great honor to be able to give a public briefing. And I'd like to thank CEO Son Dong-young and other members of the Seoul Economic Daily for organizing such a meaningful event. And I'd like to also thank everyone for coming to show their interest in healthcare and advanced biotechnology. Today, we are facing three important challenges and changes. The first is aging population. In April last year, the number of seniors aged 65 and older exceeded 9 million. With the current pace, the figure will exceed 10 million next year. At this juncture, we need to think about a society that promotes a healthy life for senior citizens. Second is a shift or a rapid shift in the medical paradigm. We are now going beyond the era of treating and preventing diseases and entering into an era of healthcare 4.0 for universal healthcare coverage. And the third is the intense global competition in the biohealth technology and industry sectors triggered by COVID-19 in the past 3 years. Now, let's look into Korea's circumstances. Korea has excellent ICT capabilities and scientific infrastructure, and we are accumulating vast amounts of medical data with high potential value. In the wake of COVID-19, companies with global capabilities have emerged, showing the potential to lead the global market in the future. However, government policies and systems are not keeping up to this. It is time for us to bring innovations to regulations and provide bold support policies to help the biohealth industry preempt new markets while prioritizing public benefits and health improvements. In response, the Yoon Suk-yeol administration announced, based on the slogan, "Keeping people healthy and bringing the future closer," the strategy for creating a new biohealth market on February 28th, and since then it has been announcing a series of follow-up measures by sector and has been implementing related measures. The strategy for creating a new biohealth market includes the vision of becoming a global center for digital and biohealth, creating a new digital market, and invigorating biohealth exportations. To this end, it presented 5 core tasks. First task is to innovate medical health and care services. We want the public to take the initiative to securely share information with medical professionals, medical institutions, and healthcare companies to receive customized medical and healthcare services tailored to their conditions, thereby creating a quote-unquote medical my data ecosystem. And in addition, through digital transformation of services, we will expand personalized medical and healthcare services and distribute and use medical data in a secure manner. So the main project of the so-called Health Information Highway will be launched in the second half of this year. And we will also develop and expand the smart hospital models and promote the use of medical AI. And finally, we will support the use of medical-related big data accumulated in medical and public institutions in research and industry. And by big data of 1 million people, we will develop personalized therapies, and by doing so, we will lead medical innovation. The second task is invigorating biohealth industry exportation. In March, the government announced the third plan for pharmaceutical and bio-industry development, and in April, it declared the first plan for medical device industry development. In the pharmaceutical and bio-industry, we will promote R&D to create 2 blockbuster drugs within 5 years and enter the top 6 global powers. In the medical device industry, in order to double exports within 5 years and enter the top 5 exporting countries, we will expand R&D investment and strengthen export support. Furthermore, we will make efforts to attract more foreign patients and support ICT-based medical service industry exportations. Now I'll go into the third task, which is strengthening R&D for advanced convergence technologies. As proposed in April in the third basic plan for healthcare technology development, we will strengthen investment in advanced convergence technologies. We will also strengthen R&D of medical and healthcare products, including R&D of digital therapeutic devices, clinical demonstration support and commercialization. And we will also strengthen the development of data and AI-based medical technologies so that medical AI can provide practical help in clinical settings, including ICUs and ERs. We will also secure technologies related to AI drug development platforms. In addition, we will establish an innovative R&D system to solve national challenges, like establishing a health security. The fourth task is a very important task, and it is to foster biohealth talents and to support startups. In April, we announced the Biohealth Talent Development Plan, which outlines a strategy to foster 110,000 specialized talents by year 2027. We will strengthen the connection between school education and industrial sites, foster research talents, expand convergence-specific education programs dealing with topics like medical AI, and establish a full-cycle support system. Further, we will establish a system to support the growth of startups by connecting them to the infrastructure of high-tech medical complexes. Last but not least, there is the establishment of related laws, systems, and infrastructure. We will establish a pan-governmental governance, such as the Biohealth Innovation Council chaired by the Prime Minister. At the same time, we'll overhaul related legal systems like the Digital Healthcare Act and promote private investment to promote the biohealth industry. Furthermore, for the rapid market entry of innovative medical devices, regulatory innovations will be promoted. Even in the midst of the pandemic crisis, Korea's biohealth industry has found new opportunities to leap forward, some of which include diagnostic kit exportation and vaccine development. The government will spare no efforts to support the biohealth industry, which has huge potentials to grow as much as our semiconductor industry. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Minister Cho Kyo-hong of Health and Welfare, for introducing the Korean government policies on the nation's bioindustry development in the ever-changing world. Thank you very much, Minister Cho Kyo-hong, and let's give him a big round of applause once again. Okay, next, we would like to ask President Lee Kwang-hyung of KAIST to deliver a special speech for this forum. So let's give him a big round of applause once again. Good evening. My name is Lee Kwang-hyung, President of KAIST. Today, I would like to congratulate you on the opening of Seoul Forum 2023. So major countries around the world are implementing various strategies to gain an edge in the race of technological supremacy by investing in R&D and advanced technologies, international cooperation, and strengthening supply chains around the world. The Korean government also last October announced 12 national strategic technologies, including advanced biotechnology, to secure the country's future growth and technological sovereignty. So President Yoon also have visited the Boston cluster himself, mentioning that the role of medicine and engineering coming together. Global pharmaceutical biomarket was approximately 2,600 trillion Korean won, which is more than 3 times bigger than the semiconductor market that Korea has a stronghold in. And due to the aging population, this trend would be exacerbated. However, the market share of the bioindustry in the world market is only 1.2%. So digital healthcare, brain science, and also regenerative medicine is an ever-growing market. So that's why more investment and research capabilities are necessary for Korea to catch up and become the leader in the industry. The government is trying to foster the biohealth industry as the second semiconductor market, which is very hopeful, and we are very optimistic. We all know that we had to rely on imports for COVID-19 vaccination. And this served as an opportunity, unfortunately, for our people to feel that our country is less competitive in terms of vaccine and treatment development. And I think one of the main reasons behind this is because there is a lack of physician scientists. There is not a strong connection or bond between hospitals and research centers. So we do not have enough medical scientists. So as we know, the Pfizer vaccination is developed and commercialized by medical scientists. And also in the case of Moderna, the MIT professor has developed this in help with physician scientists. So I believe in the bioindustry, physician scientists are significant. In order for us to further get a competitive edge, we need to make sure that we foster enough medical scientists. Korea has many building blocks for further success, and among them, there is a missing block, which is medical scientists. So it is like we are in the construction field. We need to do construction, but we do not have a license. So a license is a preliminary requirement to do construction. However, in this case or under the current circumstances, it is like we do not have a license. That's why Postech and KAIST is planning to establish a school of medicine to further foster physician scientists or medical scientists. So we also have the president of Postech. So we are in very good terms. We are and moving towards the same goal. So some say that maybe after graduating the KAIST medical school, they would go into clinical practice. However, KAIST does not have the residency program, so they will not be able to be board certified. That's why the graduates will not fall into or pursue clinical practice. So the convergence of engineering and medicine is significant. So that's why ICT universities are planning to set up many good school of medicines, and there are also global practices. In the case of Tsinghua University, it integrated the engineering part and the medical part to create a good program. And Technion of Israel set up a medical school in the engineering department, and that's also the same case for Carl Illinois UIUC. And also Tokyo Engineering University has an integrated course. And it's also the same case with NTU. So in order for us to become stronger in biohealth, we need to make sure that medicine, engineering, and sciences all comes together so that we would be able to further contribute to the health of the nation. And I would like to ask for your continued attention and support. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, President Lee Kwang-hyung, for your insight. Let's give him a big round of applause.
네, 총장님의
So as have been mentioned, it is very ironic that after coming out of COVID-19, the attention towards the bio industry has gone up, which is very hopeful. However, the current circumstances are not matching this optimism. So I hope Korea would be able to reposition itself as a first mover in terms of biohealth. So moving on to the next session, we will have an opportunity to learn about insights from two keynote speakers. First, Subra Suresh, Director of HP Board and also former President of NSF, will give us a keynote speech on the topic of technology, biomedicine, and humanity. So, Director, please take the podium for your keynote speech. Let's welcome him with a big round of applause.
Good evening, distinguished guests and friends. Thank you very much for inviting me to participate in this very important forum in Korea. I would like to focus in the next 12 minutes or so on topics that are not unfamiliar to anybody in this room, but perhaps add and synthesize some perspectives from colleagues who are very knowledgeable about some of these areas. So the focus of my presentation is technology, biomedicine, and humanity. Just to summarize some key issues that may be of relevant to Korea, especially at this critical juncture where there is a new push to develop major capabilities in the bio area. There are a couple of things that are working very well in Korea's favor. First and foremost, a highly educated workforce, a technologically savvy workforce, and also accomplishments that are globally renowned, especially in the semiconductor area. So what is it that's unique about this particular point in time, as Korea has, as we have heard in the previous speeches, has major ambitions to leapfrog in the biomedical area. So we are well into the fourth industrial revolution, and by definition, compared to the three previous industrial revolutions, it is the unique and unprecedented convergence of three things: the physical world, the digital world, and the biological world. So what is unique about this is the addition of biology to the physical and digital worlds, which happened in the third industrial revolution. So that is something unique. Of course, I don't need to tell this audience what the ingredients are, but one of the unique things about this industrial revolution compared to the three previous ones is the very question of how technology is likely to change humanity, both in many positive ways, but perhaps in some unanticipated ways. So what are those issues? Ethics, policies, practices, regulations are one part of it. The other one is the human-technology interaction. And especially when autonomous systems become much more dominant and machines make more and more day-to-day decisions as the physical, digital, and biological worlds converge. So what are some of the mega trends in this transformation? First, accelerating pace of technology adoption and digitization. When the telephone came into existence, it took 75 years for the first 50 million users around the world to adopt the telephone. 75 years. When Pokemon Go came into existence, it took 19 days for the first 50 million users to adopt it. That's the difference in rapid pace of adoption. On the one hand, we have increasing globalization through technology. Even during the global pandemic, during COVID, tens of millions of people could connect with one another for business and family life through things like Zoom. But at the same time, we have deglobalization from geopolitics, which is accelerating, as some of the previous speakers mentioned. We have growing inequality within and among countries and peoples in access to healthcare and also healthy lifestyles. And this happens even within wealthy countries. And that inequality has been exposed very significantly during COVID. Then another aspect of COVID with respect to biotech is that the unique and important role that universities and research institutions play during the pandemic in taking basic science and in partnership with industry, developing vaccines and rolling them out in record time with record efficacy so that global population could benefit. This power of science and technology and the power of intellectual pursuit and pure basic research in concert with applied research and industry has never been more forcefully documented in such a short period of time as we saw just a couple of years ago during COVID. At the same time, when science delivered a solution during the global pandemic in record time with record efficacy, there is a growing mistrust and distrust in the public around the world in science, and also with things like AI, ChatGPT, etc. There is growing mistrust in the veracity of information that guides AI and other decisions that machines will inevitably make during the coming years. Then, of course, last but not least, the nature of work-life boundary, personal boundary, which affects not only physical health, but mental health, has been permanently altered because of COVID. And that has been exposed, the importance of mental health related to work and work-life balance. So McKinsey, the global consulting company, came up with 12 disruptive technologies. I've taken that and slightly modified this to talk about disruptive technologies in the context of biomedicine and healthcare. Mobile internet, cloud technologies, next generation genomics, advanced materials in the biotechnology context, AI, large language models, GPT, massive data analytics, advanced robotics, internet of everything, everywhere, anytime, 3D printing, and real-time computational simulations, very sophisticated computational simulations. I want to give one example of the physical, digital, and biological convergence through some work that was jointly done between MIT and NTU in Singapore. On the top left, you see the image from the eye of a patient, a diabetic retinopathy patient, which shows in the blood vessels there are bulges or pouches which form, indicating the presence of the disease. On the right hand, that's the biological world, the real world. On the right-hand side, you have a physical world of microfluidics, a small device that is made using semiconductor technology, where you take live human blood cells and you send them. In the movie that you see on the right, you see the blood cells going through this, and you can simulate in the lab under controlled pressure and velocity conditions. On the bottom left, you have artificial intelligence. So you can have images, 2D images from the patient, 3D video movies, 3D images and 2D images from the lab experiments, and combine that with the patient data and use machine learning algorithms and neural networks, physics-informed neural networks for fluid mechanics flow, so you can create an AI-based diagnostic tool for diabetic retinopathy. So this is one clear example of the cutting edge of science and technology benefiting medicine. I would like to highlight there are many thought leaders from Yuval Harari in Israel to Eric Schmidt, the former chairman of Google, to Henry Kissinger and many others who have talked about issues with respect to technology, especially in the fourth industrial revolution. I'm just going to highlight 6 of them quickly.
the job creation versus job destruction, especially the time lag between the two, and the worsening inequality. What is the definition of an educated person? There is exponential growth of information, but there is only 4 years to get an undergraduate degree in a university, maybe 8 years to get an MD, PhD. So in that time, how much information can you learn? You want an engineer to know about biology and medicine. You want a computer scientist to know about Shakespeare, and you want a medical doctor to know about artificial intelligence. How much can you teach, and what is the meaning of an educated person? What is the definition of being human when our day-to-day decisions will be increasingly made by machines? When we reach the point of singularity at which machine decisions are almost as good as human decisions, can we reverse those decisions? Even if we can reverse them, can we reverse them in time to avoid catastrophic consequences? What are the intended benefits of technology and the unintended consequences, which happen with every industrial revolution? In this case, the consequences are much more serious in the case of humanity. And last but not least, there is a potential, and only a potential at this point, for loss of truth and beauty of the imprecise and imperfect world that technology is trying to make more precise and more perfect. So what do we do about this? Will we lose our creativity when we are so forced by machines? These are interesting questions. I want to take one example of humanity. So this is a BBC News story that was published on the 9th of March 2019. A patient, a cancer patient in a hospital in California, was receiving telemedicine from a doctor. The technology worked very well. The doctor precisely diagnosed the problem. He told the patient he had a week to live. The patient died next day. But the problem was, the patient was alone in the room, no nurse, no family members. This devastating news was delivered to the patient without any humanity. So this is one of the issues that we need to face at the intersection of engineering, medicine, and humanity in the future. And how do we do that in education? This is my last slide. So what are some of the opportunities for us to consider? Importance of social sciences, ethics, and humanities in the training of both engineers and medical doctors. It's already being done in many institutions around the world, but how do we make sure that key aspects of this training are not compromised? Digital literacy, digital hygiene, and social responsibility. So at NTU, for example, we made it mandatory about 4 years ago that every one of our 23,500 undergraduate students will have to go through a minimum set of course requirements in what we call digital literacy. It doesn't matter whether you're a humanities major, English major, or an engineer. Training to manage misinformation, nurturing the innovation ecosystem, and there are many models we discussed in this conference from NSF to NIH. Critical assessments of the core skills for an educated person of the 21st century. So hopefully these are some of the issues that we will keep in mind as we move forward with respect to the intersection of biotechnology and medicine, especially with the exciting plans we have that we just heard about the future for Korea. Thank you very much.
네, 기조연설 해주신 수브라 수레시 의장님께 여러분 다시 한번
Thank you very much, Director Subra Suresh, for your insightful presentation. Okay, the next keynote speaker will come from a virus expert and entrepreneur of 5 NASDAQ-listed startup companies, Professor Jeffrey Glenn from Stanford School of Medicine, who will talk about future pandemics and sustainable advanced biotech. So Professor Jeffrey Glenn, please join me on the stage and let's give him a big round of applause.
I'd like to start by thanking the organizers for inviting me to participate in this really exciting forum and to have an opportunity to interact and collaborate with all of you people here. And before I begin, I just want to say, for purposes of full disclosure, I've been a consultant to, have received research funding from, or have an equity interest in those entities listed there. So viruses have afflicted humans for quite a long time. We can find evidence in mummies of smallpox. We can see on the right an example of atrophied limbs suggestive of a poliovirus infection in ancient times. But today, we also have the vectors for massively accelerating transmission of viruses with over airplanes or migration, immigration. And so viruses that used to be very far away come to our shores in very rapid time. And COVID-19 was a wake-up call. But if you think about it, to be honest, less than 0.1% of the current world's population has died. To put that in perspective with the type of pandemic that I worry about, that keeps me up at night, a severe pandemic influenza, that could kill over 100 million people. That's, just imagine what bad COVID has been. Think of something that's 50 times worse. And unfortunately, we are not prepared for something like that, even after these last few years. Now, just taking stock of what we have done, Korea's have effective anti-COVID-19 measures that have included testing, tracing, sending notifications, mask wearing, but no domestic vaccines or treatments that have been able to help the world. However, Korea's strong science and technology expertise offers important opportunity to develop robust biotechnology capabilities to counter future pandemics. And just to give you a sense of what the US response has been, it has included the Antiviral Program for Pandemics, the APP, whose goal is really to combat SARS-CoV-2 first and foremost, but also to build sustainable platforms for targeted drug discovery and development of a robust pipeline of antivirals for future pandemics. And the APP projects are led and overseen by a variety of branches of NIH, NIAID, NCATS, as well as BARDA. And these are really spearheading this APP efforts. And just to zero in on the type of infrastructure, collectively this is providing everything that's needed for drug development and actually early clinical testing, and tremendous resources and really in an unprecedented manner have been put into this APP program. And one of these are these antiviral drug discovery centers, or AVID centers. An ambitious commitment of up to $1 billion to fund these centers. There are 9 in the United States, 3 on the West Coast, 3 on the East Coast, 3 in the middle. I lead the Stanford one, which is called Cinerex. And we are focused on developing outpatient cocktails for SARS-CoV-2 and other viruses of pandemic potential. This funds a collection of 60+ faculty and consultants focused on 7 projects targeting all different aspects of the viral life cycle. It's a global effort. For example, Project 3 is led by Professor Cho from NTU. It's supported by 3 scientific corps, a pandemic assistance corps providing high biosafety level containment to study BSL-3 infections in vitro and in animals, a structural biology corps with cutting edge technologies like cryo-EM and cryo-ET, and a translation accelerator core that regroups a tremendous collection of resources needed to translate expertise from industry to really accelerate translationally the science that's in this center. And this center is actually part of a larger effort at Stanford, the VIREX at Stanford, which is the Stanford Biosecurity and Pandemic Preparedness Initiative, born with COVID, whose mission really now is to build out our collective antiviral toolkit, but in a proactive rather than reactive manner. And some of the key approaches within VIREX include targeting host targets. It's a new way of thinking about antiviral therapy that has multiple advantages when we think of pandemics. First of all, because we target a gene in us, not in the virus, it's a much harder evolutionary task for the virus to escape, and that translates to a very high barrier to resistance. Secondly, many viruses have evolved to depend on the same host function, so one drug can serve for multiple bugs, broad spectrum antiviral activity. And for pandemics in particular, if you really want to be able to shut the next virus down in Wuhan, you need to do the full development so it's not only ready, but it's stockpiled and ready to deploy. And whoever's going to pay for that, that's a big bill to pay, whether it's government, investors, or nonprofits. And to do that for a virus that may never show up is a hard ask. But if you have a host target antiviral strategy, that same drug could work for a completely different non-viral disease because that host target is not just waiting for the virus, it plays a role in normal human biology. And that could be a reason to develop the drug. And it's very important because you want to have a sustainable business model to actually get these drugs developed and stockpiled so they can be used. Another strategy we pursue in Virix is the concept of programmable antivirals. These are strategies that we can deploy very rapidly to target unique and highly conserved features of any viral genome. And the current ones are being to target influenza and SARS-CoV-2, among others. Some of the accomplishments include we've received a $48 million contract to fund the full development through clinical proof of concept for one of these host targeting antiviral strategies to combat enteroviral infections and COVID. A $69 million installment, the first 3 years funding for that AVID Center. Again, these 60 plus faculty and consultants. But this is really the so-called Stanford phase. At some point, we need to eventually get the drug, or a candidate drug out of Stanford into industry because industry is what will eventually get into patients. And so we also have an example of that where we've recently completed a phase 3 study of one of our host targeting antivirals. And hopefully that will be the first approved drug for this hepatitis delta virus, the worst form of human viral hepatitis, within a year. However, that same drug was already approved 2 years ago by FDA because it has activity in a completely non-related viral disease called progeria, the disease of premature aging of kids where they look like they're 90 but they're 8, and that same drug actually prolongs their life. And that's how the drug got approved. And so that's highlighting an example of how you can build sustainable business models to develop what our antiviral armamentarium. Now, pandemics are global, so are we. So we've been establishing hubs around the world. We have a Virix at Stanford, Vietnam to study tropical diseases, a Virix at Stanford, Mongolia for liver diseases, a Virix at Stanford, Israel, where we have access to a fantastic phase 1 unit, and a Virix at Stanford, Brazil, where we have access to a tremendous network of clinical trial sites to do phase 2 and phase 3 studies. And actually, an example was this recent New England Journal paper, which we published with our colleagues in this Virix at Stanford, Brazil, who led this clinical trial, including Ed Mills and Gilmar Rice, who bookended this author list. And this was looking at a single dose of a drug called PEG interferon lambda for COVID-19. This was one of the largest studies done in COVID, and in the first one in largely vaccinated patients, around 2,000 patients. And in all of the endpoints, early treatment was shown to be a benefit across all the outcomes. But in terms of the primary endpoint, there was a 51% decrease in hospitalization in this population. And among those unvaccinated patients receiving early treatment, there was an 89% decrease of hospitalization or death, which is exactly like Paxlovid. However, there's no drug-drug interactions like Paxlovid. There's 100% compliance because it's a single dose and you're done. And efficacy was seen across all variants, including Omicron. And importantly, side effects were the same as placebo. So this really highlights what we can do in this network, where we can develop drugs, new drugs at Stanford. They can go into phase 1 in Israel and phase 2, 3 in this network in Brazil. A whole new ecosystem for developing drugs for pandemics. Now, what about Virix at Stanford, Korea? I think this is something that really could be mutually beneficial for Korea and US biotechnology industry. Of course, it could leverage Korea's expertise in key areas for pandemic preparedness, opportunity to be part of the future first response. And if the focus is on sustainable business models, it can help ensure needed future antivirals while bringing new drugs to market for other indications. Biotechnology timelines are longer than tech, but the rewards can be greater. But we have to make the necessary investment now to realize maximal impact and global leadership when, not if, the next pandemic ravages the world. So finally, I was asked to just highlight some of the companies that I founded to just kind of give an example of transitioning new drugs and how we get them into commercial development. So these are the companies that I've been involved in founding. So first is Iger Group International, a research and development holding company. Iger Biopharmaceuticals has 3 drugs that have completed or are currently in phase 3, including an oral drug for hepatitis delta virus and Lambda, as I mentioned, for Delta and COVID-19. Riboscience has an oral immuno-oncology agent, first and best in class, for treating all solid tumors, currently in phase 1 in 10 sites around the United States. iCube Therapeutics, an oral preventative for liver cancer, currently in phase 2. We're about to start that trial in Mongolia, which has the highest rate of liver cancer in the world. And finally, 4J Therapeutics is the latest one, really advancing this programmable antiviral technology, where our lead program is a universal single-dose treatment for influenza, which can be given weeks before or 3 days after when Tamiflu does nothing, a lethal infection, and give a full 100% survival. But it's the type of approach that we really can thwart what we worry about is coming next. Anyways, just an example that we try to walk the talk, and hopefully this will help plug those holes that we have collectively. There's never been a greater time to engage in biotechnology, and we've never had greater knowledge or tools at our disposal. We just need to make the commitment to work now, so for a fraction of what we spent, the trillions just on COVID, we could have had something that could have shut it down in Wuhan. But we have no excuse if we don't prepare for the next thing. And I hope that we will build on partnerships, maybe started even here tonight, that will help us get us there collectively. Thank you.
네, 감사합니다. 기조연설 마무리해 주신 제프리 글렌 교수님께 여러분 뜨거운 박수 부탁드립니다.
Thank you very much. Please give Mr. Jeffrey Glenn another big round of applause.
감사합니다. 저도 이번 서울 포럼 2023
Thank you very much. Preparing for the opening ceremony of Seoul Forum 2023, I had an opportunity to study in advance about biotechnology myself. So we live in the 4th Industrial Revolution, and we are living in the era of advanced biotechnology. So the application of AI and data in the pharmaceutical industry drastically reduced inefficient procedures and revolutionized development speed as well as efficacy and cost. When we hear the word biotech, people are reminded of medicines or vaccination. However, thanks to technological development, the use of biotechnology is so much more, including in agriculture and environmental applications as well. I once again realized that there are various bio-industries, such as green bio, to find solutions to the food crisis, and white bio to respond to the climate crisis as well. So in response, we have prepared a forum of dialogue to engage in in-depth discussions on the present and future of advanced bio, which is expected to lead national security and economic growth of the world as well as Korea. So allow me to introduce today's moderator and panelist for the special discussion. The moderator is Professor Namjun-jo, MRS Singapore Chair Professor at Nanyang Technological University. And let me introduce the panelists, Mr. Subra Suresh, Director of HP Board, and Jeffrey Glenn, Professor at Stanford School of Medicine. Paul Yu, Deputy Scientific Director at the National Human Genome Research Institute, National Institute of Health, will join us as well. Also, Sean Patel, CEO of React Neuro, and Garrick Storm, Professor at Uttare University and University Hospital of Singapore, will join us as panelists. And Mr. Mordecai Chavez, Professor at Department of Molecular Chemistry and Materials Science, Weizmann Institute of Science, will be joining us, as well as Mr. Roland Illing, Chief Medical Officer and Director of International Public Sector Health, AWS. And Mark Cohen, Dean of Carl Illinois College of Medicine, UIUC, will also be participating in the panel discussion. And last but not least, Mr. Uzi Sofer, CEO of Alpha Tau Medical, will be participating as panelists. So if your name is called, please join us on the podium. So we have 10 panelists who will be participating in this panel discussion, leading the global biohealth industry in the world. So it is such a rare event to talk about the way forward for not only Korea but also global trends. So we will now start the special discussion, which would be moderated by Professor Namjun Cho. So I will pass over the microphone over to you.
This is a special dialogue at the opening ceremony. Let's open the era of advanced biotechnology, the core of healthcare, economy, and security. My name is Namjun Cho. I'm the professor at Nanyang Technological University in Singapore. I'm moderating this special dialogue opening ceremony of Seoul Forum 2023. We had an insightful remark from two keynote speakers, Subra Suresh. Actually, he is the living example of a triple helix. He is actually board of director of HP, the industry. Also, former president of Carnegie Mellon and NTU. And actually, the government is a former director of a National Science Foundation. And he gave a talk today about interdisciplinary technology, biomedicine, and even more, we need to have a humanity combination. And Jeffrey Glenn, professor at Stanford University School of Medicine, and co-founder of 5 companies, and one listed in NASDAQ. These two keynote speeches were truly inspiring, deliver profound insight. Please give a round of applause to both speakers. So with that, I will introduce 8 panelists. That's what we have, and then we're going to share their wisdom with the topic of Seoul Forum 2023, the era of advanced biotechnology, the core of healthcare, economy, and security. I will now introduce the panelists who will discuss the theme with these 2 keynote speeches. And then actually you already seen the video with their introduction. Paul Liu, Deputy Director at the National Human Genome Research Institute from US. Shyam Patel, co-founder of React Neuro from Boston cluster. Gary Storm, professor in University of Twinney and also professor in National University of Singapore. Moody Chavez, former vice president of technology transfer and current chairman of YEDA at the Weizmann Institute. Roland Illing, chief medical officer for Amazon Web Service and international public sector health lead. Mark Cohen, dean of University of Illinois College of Medicine. Uji Sofer is the CEO, Alpha Tau Medical, are all attending from various parts of the world, such as the United States, Asia, Europe, and Israel. However, as you see that with the 2 keynote speeches, 8 panelists, we may have about 5 minutes each talk per person, maybe 2-3 times. So the comment should be, it is a request that everyone keep their remark brief and to the point. Okay, with that, now first, 8 panelists will speak briefly for 1.5 minutes to 2 minutes each in rotation, providing insight on global trend and advice on the theme of the era of advanced biotechnology in the context of these 2 keynote speeches. Okay, let's start with Paul Liu.
I also want to start by thanking the organizers to include me in this very important forum. I really enjoyed it. It's very timely. So I was very touched by the, all the enthusiasm and the support from, the government and all the organizations, and we heard all the congratulatory remarks. And the 2 fantastic, keynote speeches really set the tone for the forum. I really especially enjoy the first speaker, and regarding how the next revolution, if you will, from the physical world to digital world, now it's biomedical research. Some they're saying that this 21st century is a century of biomedical research. I think for this, the revolution, especially for Korea, to play an important role in this, we all need multidisciplinary participation, because the biological system is, at least my personal opinion, is orders of magnitude more complex than the physical world and even the digital world. So you need participation of scientists, researchers from all different disciplinary contributing to understand how the biological system works. Then you can, translate to better treatment and better management of diseases. And secondly, big data. I think it's really important to understand and analyze, collect and analyze, integrate big data, both experimental, digital, genomics, and clinical. I think President Lee from CAIS mentioned about physician scientists. I think it's very important to have physician scientists to do research and integrate both basic research and clinical application. And, and also, collecting data from the population. Right now, up to now, a majority of the research, human research, has been using population, Caucasian, European population. And so we need more diversity, representing the entire world population, including, of course, East Asian. I think Korea can make an important contribution in this area as well. And so finally, I think it's important to consider prevention, not only treatment. It's always better to have this kind of link to the earlier what I mentioned about the population study. So if you have a baseline, understand what's the normal human biology and what's the normal physiology, and monitor and detect prevention, and this is better than wait until it's too late to treat.
All right. Thank you very much for your comment. It's a great comment. And Shyam Patel. And then actually you heard the speech from the Jeffrey Glenn. He's from Silicon Valley ecosystem, and you're from the Boston Bio Cluster. Do you have an insight for the Boston Bio Cluster and how your form of your company and venture capital effort?
Yeah, absolutely. To start, I just want to say how genuinely impressed I've been at the beginning of this meeting to see the fortitude and thought that's been given to bring Korea as a leader in innovation. It is really quite amazing. As you mentioned, most of my time is spent thinking about how to bring technologies and innovations out of the lab at the earliest stages. And while I agree with nearly everything that's been discussed so far, I think there's one learning that I've had that is worth mentioning that I think is just absolutely critical to creating those magical environments that have been referred to today in Boston, in Silicon Valley, in Israel, where a lot of this work is happening. And that's really can be summarized as culture. It's really easy to point to experiences and companies that have been successful, but all of those companies that have originated and tried to pursue something of great opportunity that have failed kind of go away in the wayside. But it's not without saying that it's the spirit of innovation, the opportunity to try, the environment and the infrastructure to support those, the academics, the entrepreneurs, the policymakers, the capital allocators, incentivizing people to take risk, educated, calculated risk, but certainly to take risk, is critically and vastly important, and I think it's the life energy of innovation. The other observation that I would have sitting in Boston as an outsider is that there is already really great innovation happening here in Korea that is not happening anywhere else. An example of this is in the tissue regeneration space. Companies like Rocket Healthcare are developing technologies and commercializing technologies that many have tried, many have raised and spent hundreds of millions of dollars to no success, and that's happening here in your backyard. And I think there's probably a great value and lesson to be learned from companies like those to understand how they are able to do that and to support them, to bring them to the national stage.
Yeah, this is just the beginning of the Korean biotech birth of the transformation if you compare with how the Korean economy actually boom up and then move forward. And then, actually the Professor Gary Stone have both experience in Europe and Asia. So we want to listen to about, because Patel also mentioned about the cultural difference and so on and so forth. So what do you think is the biggest difference that may be advantage or hurdle for the innovation in biotech?
Thank you, Namjoon. First of all, this is an impressive event, and I'm very pleased I can participate. You asking me a question, so I will address. I wanted to say something else, but that can maybe be done later. But yes, indeed, I'm active as a professor in pharmaceutics in the Netherlands, actually lifelong in Utrecht. And more recently, I started also as a professor in Singapore at the NUS. And my discipline is primarily the application of nanotechnology in medicine. And so the field of nanomedicine. Of course, as an academic professor, I have been trying over the years also to bring it to the society. And in our field, of course, is to bring it to the patient, to the clinic. And yeah, I've been involved in quite some start-up activities and in the Netherlands, in Utrecht, as well as in Singapore. And in doing so, I would say this whole scheme of bringing something from the bench to the clinic and then to the market, actually between the Netherlands and Singapore is not so different. You have to start, of course, with a patent. Now, that's universal. The university is taking the patent, in our case, because I'm a university professor. And if you then go for a startup, you need a license. Also not very different. You have to negotiate with the university about the license. So that is not very different. But after that step, if you have a license, you also need the money, of course, to grow as a startup company. And then I've seen quite a difference in terms of the investors. You would like to have venture investment capital, and you talk, you give pitches, and then I see that there is a difference between Singapore and the Netherlands. In the Netherlands, investors always ask about what is the mechanism of action? How does it work? What is your active ingredient? They want to know everything, sometimes even before they have signed an NDA. They already want to know what's in there. And that is, of course, at certain stages you cannot do that yet. But in Singapore, it was never so much about mechanism of action, the scientific aspect. It's more the value proposition. What is the market? What will it deliver in terms of financial revenue? Will the reward be high? And that is a sort of culture difference which I see between the Netherlands and Singapore. But that is an answer to your question. But maybe you give me later on that I would like to make a remark about biotech new drug development.
Okay, no problem. I will do that. That next question to the Moody Chavez. and as a vice president of a tech transfer. And then we mentioned about Israel. It's known as a startup nation. Now they turn into the scale-up nation. They have a strong tie with the strengths of Korea and strengths of Israel. So can you have a comment, insight, how we can actually work together to develop the Korea biotech industry?
Yeah, okay. Before this, I would like to focus also on education. I mean, this was touched by Professor Suresh, but I would like to say that education maybe is the most profitable investment society can do. And when I mean education, is not only universities, but start from kindergarten. Because if your education is very important part of the ecosystem. Now, we have to teach the children and educate them how to cope with the developed technology. Especially now we have the revolution of AI, how they'll cope with that. Now, there is a lot of knowledge, and we cannot give the children every knowledge, but I think it's more important to teach the children not knowledge, but to give them tools how to think about innovations. You know, the education system didn't change for a very long time. Hundreds of years, many things change in our society in the technology, but not teaching. And that's what we have to think about it. How do we change it? We have to teach the children to be much more curious, ask questions, and doubt about the information they get. But that way, maybe we can get some young people that will be able to be more innovative. Now, in Israel, I think the education has many problems, but relatively it's good in innovation, and that's what we are called startup nation.
Yeah, exactly. That's I think it's a really good fit with our capability of the manufacturing, and then startup nation spirit of Israel. They can actually can combining with the Israel-Korea relationship for biotechnology development. Okay, thank you very much for your comment for the education part as well. And then Dr. Isling, and you are the Chief Medical Officer of Amazon Web Service. And then you heard, especially for the Subra talk about digital combining with the humanity, and one of the examples in here. Can you have a comment? Can you give me a comment for that?
Thank you very much. I think the thing which underpins a lot of the comments that have been made so far, both in the keynote speeches and on the panel here, is the vast requirements for computing, storage, and data integration, interoperability, machine learning, and AI. And the thing that hasn't been mentioned here, which has been quite surprising, is cloud computing. Because the resources that are required to underpin all of the things that have been discussed so far can really only be delivered at scale by the cloud. And what we're seeing around the world, so we work with national governments, state governments, research organizations globally, and we see the need to democratize access to storage, for instance. So we work with the UK Biobank, which holds 500,000 fully sequenced human genomes and all of the clinical data, associated biological data for the UK government. And this is identifiable data. So it's not just research de-identified, this is identifiable patient data. We're able to bring those insights to patients. So it's not just isolated research. We can actually bring insights into the clinic. So Genomics England also runs on AWS. And they run their genomics medicine service, which has human genome, cancer genomes, insights that can be brought back to the point of care. And I think that's very exciting. Finally, I'd say democratizing access to artificial intelligence and machine learning is also essential. The amount of computing that's required to do some of the analysis that we saw earlier in the presentations is vast. So 14 of the top 15 pharma companies globally are platformed in AWS. When the talk about developing coronavirus vaccines, so Moderna was able to develop their putative vaccine candidate for COVID 48 hours after being given the COVID genome, because they were able to put virtually unlimited amounts of compute against it through their drug discovery platform. And I think it's through the cloud that we will see a vast democratization of access. So it's not just the ivory towers that can do it. It's that we can put this power into the hands of researchers all across the country and make it a really interesting powerhouse to drive innovation forward.
All right, very good. So very soon, the keynote speaker will comment on your talk. And then let's continue, go to the next speaker. It's Mark Cohen. Basically, you heard that we have example for the Silicon Valley and then Boston cluster. You're in the middle, and then from Illinois. And then how was your medical school system and ecosystem actually developed in the regional matter? And then can you give a comment and some suggestion or insight to the Korea Biotech, regarding that?
Yeah, so thank you, and I'd like to thank all the organizers for the opportunity to be here today with such an esteemed panel. I think when it comes to thinking about where to leapfrog and how to innovate collectively, I think there are two things that need to be put into perspective. The first is how to break down barriers, and I think the culture development of innovation is breaking down barriers so that multidisciplinary groups can come together and solve bigger problems than they can solve on their own. And this convergence of engineering, medicine, and technology in a way that allows industry and academia and government to work together to really advance things at a much more rapid pace as we saw during the pandemic. And then the next thing is the barrier of how do we pay it forward? How do we train the next generation to build that ecosystem further and to put resources into building programs that allow that innovation of collaboration to be taught at an earlier age so that students come through and are able to bridge those 2 or 3 sectors, whether it's industry, medicine, engineering, in a way that they can really allow that collaboration to happen natively. And I think that's where that next 10 years of opportunity is really going to change society.
All right, thank you very much for your valuable comment and suggestion. Uji Sofer, can you give a comment for the either infectious disease or this digitalization context of your development of startup companies?
Yes, thank you very much for having us here. Wonderful conference. I think when Mr. Suraj and Subra and Mr. Jeffrey spoke about the pandemic and about the vaccine and the relationship between, the strong relationship that we need between universities and hospital, I saw in my mind that this is part of the ecosystem that we have in Israel. Israel is a startup nation, and part of it is the ecosystem that we build there. Especially, I think more than 90% of the hospitals in Israel affiliated to any university. And the university, we have that very, very strong technology transfer from university to entrepreneur in Israel. To add to that, the engineering in Israel, the number of engineers per capita is the number one in the world. So take all those ecosystems, and this is why we mentioned the pandemic and Corona many times in the keynote. I don't know if you know, but the company BioNTech, the one that Pfizer, most of us got the vaccine from there, they choose to build their vaccine factory in Jerusalem. And the reason that they choose the vaccine factory in Jerusalem is because of this ecosystem and taking IPs, intellectual properties, from the university to the factory with the engineers, and also doing the clinical trial, first clinical trials in Israel. Many physicians are also investigators. So this ecosystem, I'm taking from the keynote speaker, I think this ecosystem need to build also here in Korea, very, very strong, and that will expose Korea to health system and more companies on the healthcare.
Okay, very good suggestion for the build up the ecosystem. So okay, now that each speaker have had their turn with the microphone, how do you feel like the discussion as a whole? I know that right now audience is very busy, have a delicious dinner while we are starving here, but I will hand on my microphone to the actually Professor Suresh. Basically, this is the basically auto diet, and you're doing it. Why you're doing it? It's a very interesting, actually, Professor Suresh is the only president who have 3 different disciplines: National Academy of Science, National Academy of Engineering, and Medicine. And also, when I introduced him as the living example of a triple helix, because he worked before for the government, industry, and academia with the leadership position. With that, and you listen to the comment from the panelists and suggestions. So can you give a comment? We have a big watch there, so I will give you 3 minutes.
So is there a particular aspect?
No, it's generally for you can pick up one of the topic for the digital or bio combination with the humanity. That's what I want to listen to.
I'll pick up the comment that was made by, I think, several of the panelists about breaking down barriers or interdisciplinarity. This is going to be one of the critical things in the successful translation of basic research into commercial practice, especially at the national level, that has been articulated by the government officials who participated here. It is not easy at the organizational level, so I'm speaking either from a university or across research centers, etc. But some of the successful institutions have done that very well at the faculty level. Even before your program at Stanford, the BioX started mainly with the purpose of breaking down that barrier. And MIT historically created centers. So departments have academic units, and centers bring research across departments. But the centers don't have any faculty hires. The faculty reside in the departments, and the education is the domain of the departments. So those kinds of mechanisms induce behavior that goes across boundaries and makes them very porous. We heard from Mark Cohen about the Carl Illinois Medical School, and in that also, I think bringing down engineers and medical doctors together is a very new way of doing it, just as others have done in Tsinghua and a few other places. So I think that's going to be one of the key aspects of going forward. Now at the government level, trying to break down barriers across, we did an experiment at NSF through the NSF Innovation Core some years ago. And there the idea was to create innovation in universities, you have to break down a different barrier. How do you force university professors to come in contact with entrepreneurs and venture capitalists? There is an impedance mismatch in the culture, and how do you make that happen? So one of the conditions of funding in the NSF Innovation Core was you have to go through a 3-day boot camp where your idea will be torn apart by somebody who has succeeded and failed in the marketplace. And initially there was a lot of resistance to that idea, but 10 years later I think it has really caught on. And this is something that one may want to consider in the context of ambitions for Korea in the future.
Yeah, thank you very much for the valuable insight comment. Okay, Jeff. With that, I believe you guys want to have a further comment from the, the suggestion from the Subra Suresh. I will give you the mask very soon. Okay, Jeff. So basically, you talk about pandemic preparedness. Right now, as you see the audience in here, we are talking about endemic. We just forget the last 3.5 years. And then you are now suddenly talk about pandemic preparedness. So what should we do? If we have another pandemic coming, the impact of economic loss is going to be humongous. How do you actually prepare this one?
Yeah, well, it's just really essential because if you think about it, this is the most successful response we've ever had in terms of developing the vaccines with unprecedented support, Operation Warp Speed. And it still took a year from start to putting vaccines in arms. If we have a really serious pandemic where instead of most people surviving, most people are dead in 3 days, if you wait a year, you'll have hundreds of millions of people dead. So you need both vaccines, and we may not be as lucky for the next virus. Vaccines are still a black box. This is one of the easiest viruses there is to make a vaccine against, but we still don't have a vaccine against HIV, against hepatitis C. So we may not have one for the next one. And you also need drugs. You need both. It's like an army, or if you want to go to war, you don't go to war with just the Navy. You need a Navy, you need an Army, and an Air Force. So you need to have therapeutics as well as vaccines, and they take time. And if you don't prepare now, you won't have them when you want to shut something down. And so it's as simple as that. But the good news is, as I mentioned earlier, for a fraction of what it will ultimately cost, if that's invested now, you'll not only prevent the pandemics or have a better shot, but you're also going to build up your infrastructure, your industry. You're training new physician scientists. You're investing in ways that will give so many more rewards in addition to pandemic preparedness. It's such a great value proposition if you make the commitment. Otherwise, you'll pay a much steeper price.
Paul, do you have any comment for this from the government agency perspective?
So the pandemic was, very unprecedented, crisis, and it did require, unprecedented, highly unusual response. I was talking with Jeff, even though I wasn't personally involved, but NIH was in emergency kind of crisis management mode, and everything was dropped off and going through, the COVID-19 response at a top priority. Similar thing happened when HIV, that's like 40 years ago. So Tony Fauci really had a lot of experience dealing with that, but this is more urgent, more kind of time pressed. So Francis Collins was personally involved managing, this how to respond, and it was unprecedented in terms of government and being NIH and academia and industry, everybody working together, and transparency and sharing data, sharing knowledge. I think that's the key to get response going through so quickly. Even Jeff mentioned it still took a year, but remember, pre-pandemic, the vaccines took years to develop, and this was done in like 10 months. Starting from the sequence. I think we had to credit the Chinese scientists. They deposited the viral sequence, within 10 days of announcing the disease. And based on that, again, the technology was already there. The mRNA vaccine, the technology was there. So you can very quickly, based on sequence, you don't need the viral particle, you don't need the live virus, you don't need the protein, but you just based on the sequence, DNA sequence, you can design an mRNA the vaccine very quickly. Remember, you still have to do phase 1, phase 2, phase 3 trial. So that all add up into that 10 months. It's amazing. But you probably need some new technology, so you have some kind of universal, vaccine. Then you can tweak based on the new variant or whatever new virus, and you can respond quickly. But but again, the multidisciplinary and transparency, collaboration, I think that's required to deal with complex disease and any crisis or security issues.
Okay, thank you very much. So one of the hurdles for the biotechnology, it takes a long time for the developing drug. So do you have a new technology? I want to ask you about Dr. Yiling for the Amazon. So he's suggesting about the new technology. Do you know, aware of any of the new technology, you including quantum and digital, how we actually employ those technology to enhance or fast-track the development of the drug and so on and so forth?
Yes, well, I would say that I totally agree with everything that's been said about training and upskilling the workforce and making sure that the next generation of bioinformaticists really understand the modern workflows that are capable. But I think there's also a piece around the technology itself is changing. And it's really understanding that the technology is also getting easier to manage. And so, of course, if you're deep into AI and machine learning, you can get deep into the infrastructure and work in TensorFlow and PyTorch and all the machine learning language. That's great. But there's only a very small group of people that can do that. And I think it's putting power into the hands of the data scientists and the clinicians is absolutely essential. And there are ways to do that. So there is technology coming out that has managed AI and ML pipelines. Some of the foundation model work that's being done at the moment is fascinating. So we're seeing foundation models coming into research. They're not in clinical, they're not ready for clinical prime time yet, but they will be soon. And how we can, again, it's about democratizing access to this technology and putting it in the hands of the more generalist researcher, not the super specialist. And as more people get access to the tools, again, I think this is where we're going to see an explosion in the research that's taking place. So for instance, some of the managed AI and ML workflows that we're developing through something like SageMaker Jumpstart, they're managed workflows to access a whole range of different foundation models. Some are proprietary, some are open source, and it also allows organizations to develop their own foundation models. And I think we're seeing at the moment the hype cycle around one type of foundation model, text-to-text foundation model that everyone's talking about. But I think in the future we're going to see thousands of different foundation models for different types of data that will all be developed and will be leveraged for different uses.
Okay, very good. Mark, do you have any further comment for that?
Yeah, so I'll just build on what was just said, and one of the things that we learned after the pandemic is that the world wants to be a much more efficient place, and how we do things and how we accelerate things are now digitally driven. And as we think about, where this boundary is going to intersect in healthcare, people always ask me, is AI going to replace physicians? And the answer is no, but physicians who know AI are going to replace physicians who don't. And it's that efficiency and that ability to integrate data and big data in a way that can advance technology, can advance solutions, that's really going to drive biotech in the future.
Okay, very good. Stone, you want to add something, comment?
I would like to have a remark on this, on Jeffrey Glenn's talk. If you are preparing for new pandemics, I would like to remind that the COVID vaccines of Pfizer, Moderna, that not only the sequence is very important, but the nanoparticle in the vaccines is very critical to bring it in the immune cells. And what I see now is that many companies who are developing these nanoparticle-based vaccines, and these nanoparticles are called LNPs, lipid nanoparticles, they are fighting each other for infringements of patents. They are suing. There are many court cases in the USA. And I would like to mention this. So there is maybe a strong need to have more nanoparticles or the nanoparticles types in your future vaccine development work. It's a sort of question, maybe you can answer. But in generally, I would say the importance of nanotechnology and nanoparticles and nanomedicines in biotech drugs is very critical, because we are used to medicines which are composed for so many years of small molecules, small molecular weight molecules, but biotech drugs are big molecules, are large molecules, and they are not easily going into cells. They are very fragile in the body also. They are degraded by proteolytic enzyme, by nucleases, the RNA and the proteins. So I would just say, also for the future of the biotech industry, it's very important also in Korea to focus on innovative delivery systems. We cannot depend on the oral route of administration anymore. We need parenteral routes of administration. And I think also we need really to figure out how efficient delivery can take place with biotech drugs. That is not easy. It's more complicated, it's more expensive, but very doable. But that is, I think, one of the challenges to meet also in Korea, if Korea would like to be a sort of pharmaceutical powerhouse, which I've heard before.
All right, thank you very much. So this is actually my fault. I suggest the organizer, while the audience eating the dinner, and then we do this special dive. The reason being because it's time, original organizer suggests that, okay, they can actually start dinner at 8 p.m. I didn't realize that the sound and the background sound is that big. That is my apologies. So I'm gonna buy you guys dinner after this special dive. But I want to actually make the special thanks to the organizer, because Seoul Forum, it's been 14 years, and it's done by the Seoul Economic Daily newspaper. And one of the prominent economic journal, as you heard from the many speeches before. And with that, the Mr. Go, which is the senior journalist editor, and maybe you guys received tons of email from him, and then his crew, to organize this very special forum for the topic of era of advanced biotechnology, healthcare, economy, and security. With that, I believe personally this topic is very important for the future of Korea economic development. And special thanks to the Mr. Go to organize this excellent event. And then I saw the menu, so it's a delicious dinner for that. And then thank you very much. With that, I want to talk about bright future of Korea biotech. And then it's a free form of discussion. Actually, Patel, you mentioned about Rocket Health, and then I believe you came here, Korea, you discussed with the Rocket Health, and so on and so forth. Indeed, because even though we have a very short period of biotechnology development, we have Samsung Biologics, Celltrion, LG, SK Bioscience, and then there is many more conglomerate pharma, and they are developing right now. In addition to that, there is a small pharma company. They are pushing their boundary to develop the drug for the phase 1, phase 2, phase 3. I know that by fact that recently the Access Bio, they received a huge contract with the US Army, and then also Canario Bio, they're doing the immunology development for the phase 3 clinical trial. And with that, start with the Jeff. And then I believe you have interact with a few of the pharma. Do you have any comment for any of the development with the company?
Yeah, even in a short time, it's been really exciting to find companies, and you mentioned Canary and others that are very interested in collaborating together and helping build this biotechnology industry here in Korea, and I think we can do that mutually together. I think one other comment that I think that we've left out a little bit about this culture of innovation that's really important to consider if you want to establish that here is the concept of failure. And if you really want to push innovation, you have to embrace failure. Nobody wants to fail, but as long as you learn from the failure, and that can actually make you better. And I think that's what is the spirit that made Silicon Valley well, and it's an area where if you fail, it's okay, you can still be successful after. That's a tough concept to get around, and it may be something particularly important for people in the industry here to understand. That's why actually I think early drug development in many cases is best done in academia. I mean, no one likes to fail. It's never good to have something not work in industry, but in academia, other people can learn, and you share that learning, and I think that helps foster innovation.
Yeah, ultimately for the failure, basically high return, high risk. You should really aware of those chance for the failure, but you need to push the boundary. That's what you're basically commenting about. What about the Suresh? You have lots of Korean students before, right? And then you have your whole academic family in Korea, and then they are very successful in the Korea community and so on. So by seeing that, by educate them, what do you think about the future for the Korea biotechnology industry?
I think Jeff's comment aside, I think the training of the students, I've probably had close to 15 PhD students and postdocs from Korea in my research group over the years in different institutions, and it's an excellent group of students with outstanding preparation, and most of them, almost all of them have returned to Korea. Some are in industry, some are in academia, and they've done exceptionally well. In fact, it's almost like family to us. We meet them every time I come to Korea, we meet them and get together with them, and I think the educational system prepares it very well, but I think it's important to emphasize Jeff's point as well, because the system, the ecosystem, has to allow, just because somebody is brilliant and went to a great institution and has a PhD from a great institution, doesn't guarantee that they're not going to fail. And we have that in some places, even in the Western world. I think this is the same message that you hear repeatedly in Singapore. It's important to allow for the possibility of failure. So I think the system in Korea is excellent. I think given the very ambitious plans that there are, there's likely to be many successes, and there are likely to be major failures as well in some areas, and developing the ecosystem to support it is going to be important.
All right, both comments, basically you need to develop the ecosystem, and then we have a 50-minute right now, and I'm going to give you invite a few more opinions from the panelists, and then switch the microphone to the audience. All right, Moody, you have a comment?
Yeah, about how to make the process more efficient of drug development, I would like to emphasize the important role I think that technology transfer units in university play, or should play. Because I've seen many universities, especially in Korea, I think they don't take the technology transfer unit so seriously. And the technology transfer actually is a profession. You have to do it very professionally. And there are mainly two roles, especially two roles of the technology transfer unit. First, usually the professors or scientists, many of them, they don't know what they have in their hands, what commercially can be done with that. And the technology transfer unit has to find out the good technologies on campus. Usually in the campus you can find many technologies that are not utilized. This is one role. Another role is the connection with companies. As mentioned before many times here, it's very important to have connection between industry and the university. So far, most of the innovations in bio came from academia.
Mm-hmm.
This is the fact. So you have to make this connection very efficient, and the technology transfer unit has a very important role in doing that, because usually professors, they don't do this, or they should not. They should focus on basic science, and the technology transfer unit should do this. So I think in Korea you have to develop more the technology transfer units, and maybe it's good to have interaction with other technology transfer units in other countries that they have more experience, and to learn from their mistakes instead of doing your mistakes again.
Okay, you talk about importance of the technology transfer. What about Patel and Sofer?
Yes, if Moody is from one side of the bridge on the technology transfer, I can say that I'm from the other side. So I took 3 times technology from academy to the business. And I think just to add to what Moody said, doctor don't know and investigator don't know what they have in their hand. And I think that most of the investigators try to be the CEO of their company. And I think this is also a big mistake. That when an investigator found something, and even if you put the IP and the intellectual property, they want to lead the company, they want to manage the company. Not always, mostly they don't have the capability how to run those companies. So this is the first, I think the first role that they don't need to run the company, they need to run the investigation and the research. And something very important, if Korea will continue with technology transfer, is to take out from the academy the development of the technology. So you can do it by equity, you can do it by royalties. The research can stay in the university, but the development and the clinical trials, everything else need to be outside of the university.
Okay, very good comment. And Patel, do you have any final comment?
Yeah, I'm very optimistic. Korea is in an incredible position with an incredible workforce, highly educated, skilled. If you combine that with the revolution that's happening with machine learning and the democratization of these technologies, that's going to make access to discovery and innovation more accessible for everyone, that's a very powerful combination. I think de-risking science and technology in the laboratory setting is an excellent proposition. The challenge becomes, how do you encourage those technologies to translate out into the marketplace? And this is kind of a weakness in all of translational science. It's really important to be able to kind of leverage the market dynamics, encourage capital liquidity from investors and governing organizations offering grants to help capitalize early stage development, spin them out, build infrastructure, executive teams, regulatory support, all the variety of things that are so unique in healthcare specifically, to help encourage those amazing technologies which will inevitably be blooming to actually reach the marketplace and to thrive and succeed. This is, I think, a very important area to focus on to really take that last mile problem into the marketplace.
All right, very good. We love your positiveness. We can give you the honorary citizen of Korea, and very good. So, all right, so we have about 10 minutes. Now we would like to invite a member of the audience speak for the theme of Open the Era of Advanced Biotechnology. healthcare, economy, and security. As we have about 9 minutes and 30 seconds with the big clock watching us, so I give you 1.5 minutes for each of the audience. We can actually select 5, 6 speakers. Okay, let's start with President Kim. Do you have any comment for this brilliant insight, suggestion from the keynote speaker and panelists?
Thank you very much. I'm the president Post-Tech, and my name is Kim Mo-hwan. So above all, I would like to thank Mr. Subra Suresh, talking about educating people, and also he mentioned core skills. I'm sorry that your name slipped my mind. So education is very significant, and this has been highlighted by many speakers and panelists. So rather than the content, we need to make sure that we teach the hows. So I think in the university, this is the biggest challenge. So many people said that the future is bright for Korea, so I'm thankful as a president of a university. But at the same time, I think that might make us too complacent, which is concerning, because I think the reality is challenging. And within the university, everyone has different ideas on how to foster core skills. And the hows could be taught, but the students also need to know what to learn. So variety is good, diversification is good. However, in the process, the core skills get diluted and lost in the process. So I would appreciate if you would be able to comment to this regard so that it would be helpful for universities and also students.
For your excellent input and insight. So any of the audience want to have an input for this conversation? Okay, there is one gentleman there. Okay. Please pass the mic. Okay, can you introduce yourself and name and...
Yeah, sure. Hello, my name is Caleb de Guadam. I'm from Rocket Healthcare. So actually, it's not an input, but I have kind of like a simple question for Professor Jeffrey. Okay. One of the things, just to give you an intro, Rocket Healthcare, we're working on like healing DFU patients. One of the worst complications of diabetes is having this big ulcer on their foot. So we're using this technology, 3D bioprinter, to be able to regenerate and also help the patient to regain the sensory and also motor intervention. So one of the things Professor Jeffrey was explaining, it was about the liver. So I wanted to ask, like, you mentioned this artificially engineered human liver tissue will have a great value for the ESLD, which is the end stage. So I wanted to know how significantly play a big role on that part, knowing that the ESLD is the end stage for liver disease. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you very much. So, can you answer that?
Sure. Right now, the only treatment for end-stage liver disease is liver transplantation, and we don't have enough livers to go around. So it's an obvious immediate gap-filling measure is if we can create these artificial engineered human liver tissues that are sufficient to at least bridge patients till a liver is available, or take advantage of the unique property of the liver. Of all the organs in the body, it's the one that actually has some regenerative capacity itself. So sometimes just giving enough to get over an acute liver failure episode is all we would need. And in fact, when we do a liver transplant, we put someone on immune suppression their whole life. If we do a bridge to transplant, we could also put them on immune suppression. But the unique opportunity, because the liver can regenerate, we could maybe skip the immune suppression. There would be enough engineered liver tissue to bridge them functionally to their own liver starts to regenerate, and then their own immune system can actually get rid of the transplanted engineered tissue, and then they don't have to be on immune suppression their whole life.
All right, very good suggestion. So finally, we have about 4 minutes to our keynote speakers and panelists. Have any closing remark? 30 seconds each. Start with the Suresh.
So I just want to address what President Kim mentioned about how to not to dilute content. And so one of the, probably the only solution to that while giving interdisciplinarity in the educational process is to teach students how to learn, because we will never teach them all the things they need to learn. And one of the, there are 2 or 3 areas that have come up repeatedly in various surveys. One of them is how to make decisions in the face of uncertainty, not deterministic but probabilistic. So biomedicine is an important area with a lot of uncertainty. Climate change is another area. Economics is an area where you cannot really precisely predict things. And one of the criticisms of the current education system all over the world is we don't do enough of this. So that's one area, in addition to understanding quantitative rigor and thinking in any field, including medicine and communication.
All right, very good. Paul, do you have any closing remarks? Final one?
Yeah, so I also was thinking about, what's the core, knowledge and how to, so I think it's really important to have the way of thinking, the way of tackling new, approach and new question independently. I think that's more important than any knowledge, because whatever the knowledge will be absolutely, in 5, 10 years, you need to keep learning new things and adapt, and that's very important.
Yeah, we want to hear further closing remark from the Professor Stone.
Yeah, maybe I could mention some experience in the Netherlands. Over the last 15 years, most of the innovations are within academia, as you clearly phrased, and this interaction with the industry is of critical importance. So there is a sort of concept land, academia, and there is product land, industry. And in the Netherlands, we have been using public-private partnerships intensively. And it's very much stimulated by the government. They initiated this, and lots of money went in there. And now we have no time. I could share experience, but actually we ended up with many spin-offs companies. We ended up much more R&D projects in the industry, and also with much more clinical trials. So it has boosted this interaction between academia and the industry a lot.
All right, thank you very much. Finally, from the Mark Cohen, they have a closing remark.
Sure. I think just also in response to President Kim's comment about core concepts, as the world is becoming more interdisciplinary, it's how we apply those core concepts to the real world that really is becoming interesting, because those applications are growing exponentially. And the more you can apply those concepts in different ways, the more those concepts become ingrained. And I think that that's where this new opportunity to innovate around education is really going to be disruptive and help us get into the next generation.
All right, thank you very much. Uji?
Yes, I want to go back again to the education. I think that at the end, all the physicians, investigators today with the modern world have the same knowledge. And what I think that we need to teach them is creativity. Creativity, and you mentioned that before, that don't be afraid to fail. Try, and we need as a society, as a companies, we need to accept failures. So if they will be creative enough and don't afraid to try and fail, I think this is the key.
All right, thank you. Do you want to add something?
Yeah, just on a very practical note about what to teach. We're doing some very interesting work, for instance, in the Middle East, where they're actually thinking about jobs of the future and saying actually how to think ahead about the things that aren't being done today. For instance, personal healthcare data wranglers. What curriculum do you need to come up with this kind of job which doesn't yet exist but will need to be have in the future, and about changing the skills that people are given. And we're actually training 29 million people around the world free in cloud skills by 2025 to that end. And so where we see the greatest effect are organizations or companies like Israel and like the US, where there's a really top-down focus about getting the workforce educated and this really ingrained into the population. Again, it's great to be here and to hear the real activity that's taking place in Korea with this real top-down focus as well. So I think that's the right way to go about it.
All right, thank you very much. Thank you, everyone. So we hope that today's special dialogue session, panel discussion, opened the era of the advanced biotechnology in healthcare, economic security, in line with the spirit of the Seoul Forum 2023, will help us usher in the era of the advanced biotechnology. We will conclude this session with the wisdom of Leonardo da Vinci. I have been impressed with the urgency of the doing. Knowing is not enough, we must apply. Being willing is not enough, we must do. Thank you very much.
네, 감사합니다. 식사 함께 하지 못하시면서도 끝까지
Thank you very much for your active and passionate, insight, enlightening session. I know that you must be very hungry, but thank you very much for offering your insight and expertise to all of us. Let's give a big round of applause to all the presenters and panelists, and I would like to ask you to please return to your seat.
네, 고맙습니다. 식사 준비해드리겠습니다.
Thank you very much, and dinner would be prepared for you. Seoul Forum 2023, the two-day event held under the theme of the Era of Advanced Biotechnology, the core of healthcare economy security, will continue with not only the second-day main event, but also extensive special fora and other events showcasing the ambitious challenge of K-Bio. So tomorrow, Thursday, we will start from 8:20 sharp in the morning. So we have 4 main sessions and also special fora that will be proceeded on a consecutive manner. From 1950, there will be a special forum in Walker Hall and also Grand Hall. So I would like to ask for active participation. So challenges and endeavors to prolonging life and to the economy, industry, and national security sectors, transforming the global industry geographies and shaping the future of K-Bio in Korea has been discussed today. So with this, I would like to conclude the opening ceremony of Seoul Forum 2023. Thank you very much for your participation.